Hello, you're watching Shalom World News. I'm Dana Villa from Chicago, USA. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. Pope Francis warned the priests of Rome in a letter that was recently made public that spiritual worldliness is one of the most serious temptations that priests and the church must guard against because it reduces spirituality to appearance while severing it from the gospel. The Holy Father delivered his message in a lengthy letter that was made public by the Vatican on Monday, but was dated August 5, the anniversary of the dedication of Rome's Basilica of St. Mary Major. For the Lord's comfort to fully reach everyone, the Pope exhorted the Roman priests to work with the laity to establish synodal forms and pathways that would help free the clergy from material things. Following their rejection of a demand from West African nations that they either restore deposed President Mohamed Bazoum or risk military intervention, the coup leaders in Niger have blocked the nation's airspace. The decision was made late on Sunday as hundreds of supporters of the generals who took over, also known as the National Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland, assembled at a stadium in Niamey, the capital of Niger. Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has underlined his support for ongoing mediation efforts by the Economic Community of West African States in the wake of the July 26 attempted coup in Niger. ECOWAS is scheduled to hold another meeting on the crisis on Thursday in Abuja, Nigeria. In several regions of Afghanistan, the Taliban has imposed new restrictions on female education. It has been reported that any girl over the age of 10 is prohibited from attending elementary schools in the eastern province of Ghazni. The Taliban has gradually curtailed women's and girls' rights, including access to education and employment, since the U.S. and NATO-led forces withdrew from Afghanistan. Girls were prohibited from attending women's colleges and universities as well as secondary schools by the insurgents. Their access to employment and public life was restricted. The United Nations has condemned this tightening of restrictions on education and employment, which further undermines gender equality and tarnishes the prospects of women and girls in Afghanistan. The Indian Supreme Court has adjusted, creating a committee of 3 former High Court judges to probe ethnic violence in the conflict-torn northeast Indian state of Manipur. The committee's scope would be wider than probing incidents of violence. The committee will be looking at issues apart from the investigation, including relief, rehabilitation, and remedial measures. The 3 reported members of the committee will be Justice Geeta Mittal, former Chief Justice of Jammu and Kashmir High Court, Justice Shalini Joshi, former Judge of Bombay High Court, and Justice Asha Menon, former Judge of Delhi High Court. The court said its efforts are to restore a sense of confidence in the rule of law. At least 4 migrants and 51 were missing after a migrant ship sank off Tunisia's Kerkena Island on Sunday, August 6. All the migrants on board were from sub-Saharan Africa. The country's interior minister has said that the Tunisian Coast Guards have recovered 901 bodies of drowned migrants off its coast from January 1st to July 20th of this year, which marks an unprecedented number of victims off the country's coast. In another incident, 2 people died and around 30 are missing at sea following 2 migrant shipwrecks off the southern Italian island of Lampedusa on Sunday. Italy has been witnessing a surge in sea migration with almost 92,000 arrivals so far this year when compared with around 43,000 in the same period in 2022. In his reflections on attending World Youth Day in Lisbon, Portugal, South Korean Cardinal Lazaro Yu Hong-chik, prefect of the dicastery for the clergy, called it a new hope for the church and humanity. The young people, he claimed, are capable of accepting and embracing others for who they are. The prelate discovered that despite their extreme differences, all the numerous ethnicities, cultures, languages, and colors of the world could coexist in Lisbon. He emphasized the value of peace for the Korean Peninsula and expressed the wish that the World Youth Day in Seoul in 2027 catalyze change in Korea and a message of peace for all of Asia. He wants young people from both North Korea and China to participate in WYD 2027. The World Food Program estimates that in 2022, 258 million people in 58 countries would endure crisis-level hunger that is severe. More people are going to go hungry as a result of Russia's recent decisions to stop allowing Ukraine to export tons of grain. In response to the rising concern, Bishop David Malloy of Rockford, the head of the USCCB Committee on International Justice and Peace, urges world leaders to take steps to ensure food security for all people. The bishop called on the leaders to look beyond narrow national interests, focus on the common good, and join in ensuring that critical food supplies can flow to those most in need. He said the most vulnerable are crying in hunger, and we need to help heed their cries for help. A recent study found that the use of artificial intelligence has made it simpler for predators to sexually abuse children and more difficult for law enforcement to hold these offenders accountable. Approximately 680 to 830,000 individuals in the UK are sexual risks to children, according to the National Crime Agency, the primary law enforcement body in the country. In a recent address, NCA Director General Graham Bigger remarked that the organization had emphasized how the figure is roughly 10 times the prison population and noted that it serves as an example of the perils of the internet. Due to the internet, sexual predators can readily access or distribute movies and photographs of child sexual abuse. The Internet Watchdog Foundation called for the implementation of stronger online safeguards in response to National Crime Agency's report. The annual Eucharistic boat procession along the Bayou Teche waterway in central Louisiana will take place on August 15, the Feast of the Assumption. The procession, known as Fête du Teche, also marks the 258th anniversary of the arrival of the French-Canadian immigrants to Acadiana. The Blessed Virgin Mary is the patroness of Acadiana. A Mass will be celebrated by Lafayette Diocese Bishop Douglas Desautels at the Church of the Assumption in Franklin before the procession. The 40-mile boat procession will be joined by the faithful on boats, as well as the various stations along the bayou. Confessions will be made available at the different stops in mobile units. The day's events will come to an end with solemn vespers and benediction of the Blessed Sacrament at St. Peter Catholic Church in New Iberia. India's Ministry of Home Affairs has denied permission to the Indian branch of UK charity Save the Children to accept foreign donations under the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. Bal Raksha Bharat is the name of the Indian division of the 1919 founded British humanitarian organization. It has operated in at least 16 Indian states since 2008, offering health and educational services to kids in underprivileged communities. The Ministry of Women and Child Development of India objected to it, saying that it was already vigorously involved in this area. In recent years, scores of NGOs have lost their permit, including Greenpeace, Amnesty International, and Human Rights Watch. The permit allowed NGOs to raise funds from foreign sources to help the most disadvantaged groups in the country. Father Paul Salongo, a missionary of Africa, and Melchior, a seminarian from the parish of St. Luke Gaedna in Paikoro administrative area of Niger State, were abducted in north-central Nigeria by bandits on Thursday, August 3. Monsignor Martin Igwe Ozokwu, the Bishop of Mina, circulated a note to all the churches in Niger State asking for the faithful to pray for the kidnapped priests and the seminarian. William Friedkin, Oscar-winning director of The Exorcist and The French Connection, has died in Los Angeles at the age of 87. Friedkin, who won an Oscar for Best Director for The French Connection in 1972, was regarded as one of the most daring and influential talents of his generation. He was also nominated for The Exorcist in 1974. The French Connection is now regarded as one of the best thrillers ever made. It was both critically and commercially successful. The film remains an important influence on many directors, including David Fincher, Steven Spielberg, and Akira Kurosawa. They have all cited the film as having an impact on their work. Tributes have started to pour in from figures in Hollywood. Actor Elijah Wood called him a true cinematic master whose influence will extend forever. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us tomorrow. In the meantime, you can visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.